Talking about erectile dysfunction isn't easy. Most brush it off. Some blame themselves, saying things like, I lost my mojo. Or some make excuses like, hey, I had a long day at work. Or, sorry, honey, I'm just not feeling it. Look, with Roman, it's easy to talk about with a real healthcare professional who can prescribe real medication. It's simple, safe, totally discreet. With Roman, you can get a free online evaluation, ongoing care for ED, all from the comfort and privacy of your home. A healthcare professional will work with you to find the best treatment plan. If medication is appropriate, Roman will ship it to you with free 2-day shipping. The whole process is straightforward, simple, and discreet. Getting started is simple. Just go to getroman.com/Chael and complete an online visit. Go to getroman.com/Chael today. If approved, you'll get $15 off your first order of ED treatment. Conor McGregor. Okay. Back the timeline up. Conor McGregor sends out a tweet calling out Dustin Poirier. They're going to do some kind of a boxing event in Ireland. They were calling it a sparring session. Conor slipped in there. By the way, you come do this, and I'm going to kick in $500,000 to your charity. Dustin Poirier works with this amazing thing he's doing back in his hometown in Louisiana. And I used to know all about it. But it has something to do with kids and giving them a place to play and like building a park in the structure. Just this really great thing. Very noble work. And Conor goes, I'm going to kick in $500,000 to that thing. You know, we're going to do it for another charity over here. But we're going to look out for yours too. Very cool, but hold that thought. That's going to come back later. Well, Conor even had a date. He said December 12th. So Dana steps in on the back of it and goes, I'll take that. Forget about your boxing. You're in a contract with me, but I'll take you two guys and we'll get it around that date. It even looked like it was going to be December 12th. Right? And we were just discussing this over here yesterday, in that on December 12th was supposed to be headlined by Usman versus Gilbert Burns, who were both healthy, willing, and able. That fight was mysteriously moved to January and possibly even as late as February of next year. But the question when I say mysteriously, nobody was hurt. There was no injury. They didn't ask for it. The UFC just moved it without saying why. That was a clue to us. That was a clue to go, well, what's going on here? Put that on the back of Dana grabbing Conor's idea and saying, I'll book it, makes you think it's going to be the 12th. Well, not so fast. So, here's what happened today. Conor McGregor said to Dustin Poirier publicly through Twitter, I accept the fight. I have told the UFC I accept the fight with one condition. It must be in 2020. Which is you start to look at a calendar, right? We don't have a lot of time left, and there's only 2 pay-per-views scheduled. One in November 23rd, one December 12th. Comes back to December 12th. So now the question begins, why does it need to be this year? Why is that stipulation in there? We could begin to break that down, but you do have to understand this. Every single annoying thing that Conor McGregor has done this year, everything that you want to be annoyed about, are things that we love. They're things that we always want a guy to do. Conor's not saying, I'll do the fight. It has to be at this weight class in this venue, and I'm going to need 6 months to get ready. He did the opposite. You want to fight? I'll fight you. We're going to fight now. That's awesome. Everything that Conor has done we've been annoyed. But in fairness, there are things that we wish every other guy did too. So let's give Conor a little bit of slack on that. And by the way, there's something I love about Conor saying, yeah, I'll fight you. Oh, and by the way, it's going to be tomorrow. I mean, I realize it's quick as 5 weeks from now. More likely to be 7 weeks from now. That's tomorrow in fight terms. That's tomorrow when you are a main event. Because you're not talking about 5 rounds. You're talking about being ready for 5 rounds. And by the way, Conor's not fighting just anybody. He's fighting a guy that had a 12-pound gold belt around his waist less than a calendar year ago. All right? This is a rough night out. And Conor's saying, I'm ready. Let's do it. I think we can gather a few things from that. First off, I think that we can gather some of this high-flying, floating around the world on a yacht ideas we hear about Conor is just simply not true. Maybe he went and got a little rest and relaxation in, but it sounds like he must have been getting up in the morning and getting his miles in as well. I mean, a guy doesn't just walk into a 5-round main event on 5 weeks' notice. And now he's demanding that it be quicker. One thing that Floyd Mayweather does, and I've always liked it, and I've never known if it was on purpose or it just happened through his career. But if you're going to have a Floyd Mayweather fight, that's a big deal, right? Particularly in the world of boxing that is painfully dead. One thing that I always loved is Floyd would make an announcement. You had no idea he was even looking to do a fight. He would make an announcement, and they'd be in the ring 5 weeks later. Every time it was like 5 weeks, there was no waiting around. Oh my God, you could get excited and you didn't have to stay that excited for that long. I really like when announcements like this come out. I just want to give Conor that credit. This is a very cool thing. Let's go back to what he said though. This year. Why does it have to be this year? Now, everything appears that it would be this year. Everything would even appear more so that it's going to be on December 12th, but there is some moving parts, okay? Champions in the UFC are given, not contractually. It is a gift to the highest of levels. It is policy. It is well known within the UFC. If you win the championship, Dana will bring you in and he will present you with a brand new, beautiful contract that you didn't even know existed with language in it that says you are now a pay-per-view partner. He is just handing you as a congratulations, champ. You worked hard. You got here. Guess what? I'm going to change you through this contract. Very relevant. Hold that thought. Conor McGregor is going to come in on December 12th. Amanda Nunes is already fighting on that date. Okay, this is one of the problems. This is one of the problems of coming up with the Conor date. She's already on that card. So she's already going to get points. Conor is not a champion. He's also the only non-champion of the entire roster right now. Under contract, 4 pay-per-view points no matter what. So now you're going to be writing a pretty big check, back-end money to Conor. You're going to have to write that same similar-looking check now to Amanda. Do you want to do that? Okay, that's fine. Dana's had to do that many times, but this is now what he has to calculate, right? At some point, dollars and cents. If it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. And so that's where a little bit of the problem comes in, where it's not quite as obvious that it could just stick on December 12th. One of the reasons Conor said, got to be this year, and there's only 2 dates available. There's November 23rd, December 12th. November 23rd is the same problem, by the way. That's headlined by Figueroa. I realize that's not a blockbuster that could use a little strength, and I'm just sharing with you whatever you were planning to pay for that card. If you insert Conor, you're not only coming up with Conor and Dustin's fee, you now are going to maximize the pay-per-view clause. That's where the question does come in. What does Dana want to do? He's got a few options. As we're talking about, there's only 2 pay-per-views left. That's true. Today, Dana could add one tomorrow. He could let all these fights happen. He could let the Figueiredo fight happen. He could let the Amanda fight happen, and the very next week he brings Conor in. But here is a bigger question. Let's not work with details we don't have, okay? Because we're speculating anyway. So let's not say, well, if they did this. Let's not do, because any statement's true if you threw the word if in there, right? Here's the deal. Let's think this through. Conor's going to fight on December 12th. My prediction, I believe your guys' prediction, if he's going to. And Amanda's on the card. And Dana's just going to scratch out the checks. Okay, fine. Where does Conor fight? Are you telling me that Conor McGregor is going to be the co-main event? Are any of us going to believe he's the co-main event? I mean, are any of us going to actually believe that? So now you have Amanda. Are you telling me she walks out as co-main event? The title fight is not the main event? I mean, you see the problem? I don't have a tremendous problem with that. I just know policy of the UFC. Like, here's an example. And I never knew why this happened. And I think we should just tear whatever this up and throw it right out the window now. But when the UFC would have more than one title fight on a card, they go, okay, here's how we're going to settle main event. So nobody gets their feelings hurt. Here's what it's going to be no matter who it is. Whoever's heavier goes last. Okay. Well, that could solve the problem for the night that they put that in, but that doesn't solve the problem overall. And I'll take you back to UFC 246, the first fight during the pandemic, but there was one champion on the card that night. His name was Henry Cejudo, and he was the co-main event. Now, the main event was for a championship, but there was no champion in it. So I think that we need to tear that policy up. And by the way, that's not an insult to Amanda. Okay, and before any of you think that that would be a slide to Amanda, take her opinion. Please, Dana, put Conor on this card. Put him anywhere you want. I'll be the first fight of the night on the prelims if you'd like me to. Put Conor on the card. So nobody's getting slighted here. But it is a very relevant question of where's that fight going to go? Because if people do think, oh no, we're going to hurt somebody's feelings, you can put Conor in a co-main event, now all of a sudden you're telling me it's a 15-minute fight. I mean, it changes a lot of things. That isn't going to happen. He isn't going to fight 15 minutes, and he's not going to fight in a co-main event. But you see where it's not quite as simple. Conor coming out, yes, yeah, I'll do it. It has to be that. You see where that becomes a problem? Now, if Dana can accommodate, he's going to accommodate. If he can't accommodate, this isn't an ego battle. I'm reminding you, every fighter who has ever gotten their feelings hurt ever has one thing And they're going to a guy who has to do 1,000 things in a day. As much attention and consideration as he would, appeasement that he would like to do. It doesn't work that way. He can't, I mean, it just doesn't work that way. So Conor's got one thing to do, and he's going to hang his hat, and he's going to die on the mountain of it. Has to be the shit. Dana has 1,000 things to do. Right? This is just one of them. So I'm only reminding you. We've got some questions, which are fun. We have some speculation, which is fun. I think we're going to see Conor and Poirier. I'm very heavy on the idea that it's going to be this year. As a matter of fact, I'll go one step further from a psychological standpoint. Conor has only sold 2 things in his entire time in this sport. He has sold confidence and he has sold power. Of those 2 things, he has one. He has confidence. He has no power, but he sold the idea of power. I share that with you because he's smart enough not to call a shot that he can't get. So if Conor McGregor is going to come out and say, I'll do the fight if you meet my demand, it has to be this year. I don't think he would do that unless he already had it done. I think Conor's too smart of a guy. I think the attempt and the play there, and I know it would have been if I did it, and Conor and I think more similar than you might think. If I would have done that, I would have already had that done, then gone publicly with my demand so then I look like the guy that was calling the shot. I think that's what he did. Which just adds to my speculation and my idea that we're going to see something, we're going to see it on November 12th. I've never come to you in this light with a Conor rumor. This is no more than a rumor. He's not doing anything different with Poirier than he has done the last year, every single pay-per-view, every time somebody fights and he slides in and steals the spotlight. But this feels different, doesn't it? It does feel different. And Conor is very sincere that he wants to fight and he wants to fight now. Conor is mad and angry because he's been delayed. I like that. We like guys like that. So I've got to tell you, anything you want to say about Conor McGregor, you cannot tell me he's not a man of his word. When he says he will do something, he's never helped the deck in his favor. Never. Goes and fights Floyd Mayweather, by example. He doesn't say, yeah, but it needs to be 8 rounds. Or it needs to be at this weight class. Or with these special gloves. Or he didn't do any of that. You said, however you want to do it, tell me when the date is. I'll make the weight, you do what you want to do. In all fairness, this is who Conor is. Oh, I'm going to fight Nate Diaz a second time? You're going to try to help me out with the weight because you think I was undersized? No, forget it. We're doing everything the same. He always stacks the deck against himself. Very cool thing. And he would have let me down, right? I'm one fan, but I am a Conor fan, and it would have let me down if he hadn't done this. I like that he's doing this. He deserves that compliment. His attitude, be frustrated, be annoyed if you want, but his attitude is what we generally ask other guys to have, which is they want to compete with anybody at any time. That's all Conor's trying to do. And it's not as though he went to the bottom of the deck here. He's calling out Dustin Poirier. That's a rough night out for anybody. And if you start to look at the X's and O's of that fight, guys, it gets a little bit more complex than you might think. You cannot just defer back to their first fight and think you're going to see that again. You're going to see a very different fight. And Dustin was knocked out in 1 minute and 46 seconds. Now, I just told you what happened. What's important for you to then go remember is how it happened. And it happened right here. Right here. They stood up there, they were boxing with each other. Conor is fast. Conor is long. Conor is powerful. These were not things that people knew. And if you were to take just purely the Western boxing of Dustin Poirier from the night of that first fight, have that guy walk out and fight Dustin Poirier with purely Western boxing of today, today's Dustin Poirier stops that Dustin Poirier in less than a minute. They're not even close. And by the way, Conor McGregor only does 3 things with his hands. And he does those 3 things with the same 2 setups. People didn't know him at the time. Now you've got a little footage. You can break it down. You can study it a little bit better. What kind of shape is Conor in? How good of shape can Conor be in? Not having been in there will roughly be 1 year. How good of shape can he be in? Dustin Poirier is not only in the 5-round club. Dustin Poirier is one of the kings of the 5-round club. So this is an intangible. Right? The longer you can get going. I only share that for you because the odds maker are going to have Conor as a favorite. I will have Conor as a favorite. I just share for you is when we do start to look for the X's and the O's, you're going to see a different fight. And if any part of you thinks you're going to defer back to that first one, you're very wrong. Conor is better now than he was then. The curve isn't as much. Conor was the best in the world then. Dustin Poirier is leaps better than he was then. Leaps. Not only here, but also physically, also stylistically, also speed-wise. I mean, he was one of these guys, Poirier, when he moved up to 55, oddly, he got faster. You don't get bigger and get faster. Well, Poirier did. Now, let's share that for you because we've got a very interesting fight here. And we got a fight that is not very far away. And you have pictures of Conor McGregor coming out. I mean, the guy looks like he's carved out of stone, right? But he's also been fighting at 170 pounds. He did not say, come meet me at 170 pounds. He didn't say anything helpful to himself. He just said it needs to be this year. Which, in fairness, is not even helpful to him. Very cool thing. We're close. I can feel it. This one feels different. I think you guys agree with me. Let's see what happens.